Everything in life is story. Story is how we share ideas, politics, vision, fantasies, experiences, even our hopes and dreams. The Gibson Gazette is a podcast show devoted to story, those we consume, those we tell ourselves, and those told to us. Hello, 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 my peoples. It's AMC and Marie Collymore here, and I'm joined by my illustrious and lovely co-host, Mr. LMG. Mr. Gibson, how you doing?
Yeah, this is your co-host L. Michael Gibson, and I am lit.
And y'all, he's gonna blame it on me in 5, 4, 3,
I mean,
2.
it is kind of your fault. Like, I'm on vacation, people. I have quit a job that I should never have to accept it in the
Whoop,
first
whoop, whoop,
place.
whoop.
So, like 3 months ago, I made a major announcement that I was like a director of development and education for a national nonprofit. And I realized why I had worked for myself for 7 years prior to accepting this role. I don't actually like working for people. like like I think having to have a set time every day to wake up and go to bed is ghetto. Like I don't like it. I don't having to be up or be in a cute shirt early in the morning when you ain't really feeling it, but you got to be on camera. It's given too much.
Mm,
And I know that that's kind of first world privilege kind of a thing because, it's not like I had to go into an office. I was doing it on a Zoom. And
yeah.
it was still giving, I don't like this. It's not for me.
Well, when it gives I don't like this, you know what you got to do, right?
Yeah, I gave 30 days. Yeah. I
Boom.
gave 30 days and I left.
That's it. That's it.
So, I was sober. I was very sober for the day. And then I was like, oh, I don't actually have to be anywhere in the morning. I don't actually have to be on the call. Like, so here's the shade about like my vacation was supposed to start on Tuesday.
Mhm.
I've been sending clients contracts and invoices and
Yes.
having meetings because I still got to eat, right? I still got to like pay rent
Those
and pay my
bills.
staff.
Right.
The bills don't care that I think that getting up at a certain time is ghetto.
Mhm.
Like the bills,
Exactly.
the bills is given. You better figure it the fuck out.
That's
so
right. That's right. That is right.
I had to, so I was like, I'm on vacation for May. I'm gonna be on vacation. It's maybe just me not doing anything. No, that's not what has happened in the last 3 days. The last 3 days has been scopes of work and meetings with future clients and like locking stuff in to make sure everything is locked and copacetic. So
Sweet. Sweet.
now, so I was like, okay, this is my first evening where I really don't have anything to do tomorrow. And Friday mornings, usually at my old job, not like I said, at my old job was like very early in the morning, um, staff meeting,
Mhm.
right? And I was like, oh, bitch, I didn't got no staff meeting. I just got to record with AMC. Let me get this good rum, bitch. Let me get this good
Mm.
cocktail setup. So
Mm.
I'm like sipping, waiting on AMC. She supposed to take like 5-10 minutes. So
I
then,
never
like
put
15 minutes
no
later, I,
timeline.
I had like sipped all of the cocktails. So let me go ahead and make a second one. It's okay. AMC gonna be here any
Mm.
minute.
Mm.
3 cocktails and 45 minutes later, AMC decides she want to roll. So yes, the state that I am in, which should provide shenanigans and antics to this podcast, is all a result of AMC.
You're welcome, y'all. You're welcome.
I'm singing lettuces. I blame you. That's what's
Oh my
happening.
god. Oh my god. This is gonna be sweet. Sweet.
Mm-hmm. So
Well.
Liz, child.
Well.
Well, go ahead and tell us what you're checking out, Miss AMC. What are you consuming over the last couple of weeks? And I guess we should give an apology. Like I think at this point is giving we owe the public an apology. We're supposed to do this every 2 weeks. That's what is
Yes.
supposed to give. We're supposed to be very disciplined and adulting.
Yes. Yes.
But AMC and I have had life happen. Like my week will have life happen, and I'm like, okay, girl, we're gonna do it next week. And then AMC be like, oh, child, life happened for me this week. We're not gonna do it. Let's do it next week. So unfortunately, that happened like 3 weeks in a row, and so we are like super behind on schedule. So we recognize that y'all are probably irritated with us because y'all wanted more of Gibson Gazette, right?
But
Right?
we
Yeah, we will
love
correct that.
you. We love
We do
you.
love you,
Keep on
and we will
coming
try
back.
to be better about our adulting responsibilities moving forward.
Yes. Yes, yes, and yes.
So, AMC, what is your check-in given?
So I have kind of like a mashup. I'm gonna do real quick. So right now I'm on my petty, like Drake. I'm on my petty, and I'm gonna shout it out from the top of the CN Tower here, because I know you guys are up on this little Kiki joke. I figured let me just start on a little Kiki today, right? Because I'm tickled, and I realized that my Gemini twin was just a bit too thrilled for his behavior. This was just so petty. So Drake came with all his petty, and it all started with a comment that he wrote on someone's page. It was a discussion that was going on, some basketball thing, right? So Mr. Drake went on to explain that the person or the player that they were talking about, he was rooting for his son. So Drake said that he would be like that with his son, even if it was a Rubik's Cube competition. That you have to understand that the father was just very hype and he was supporting his son. So some troll underneath his message wrote, your son probably plays with ghostwriters." Okay,
Oh,
so I
oh,
was like, ooh. So Drake did the only thing that he thought was right, and he went and he followed the man's wife.
oh,
He went and followed the troll's wife, and he told him that she may need a little excitement in her life. And he dead ass
wow.
went and really followed this woman. So it's been nonsense since then. Like the troll dude was sweating for a minute. He's like, "Yo, he really followed my wife, guy." It was this whole thing, and the troll's wife, I think it was today. She's a digital creator herself, but she put up a point list in her stories stating that she had to clear some stuff up, that she never asked Drake to follow her, but they're enjoying the 5 minutes of fame that of course she knows will flicker away, and they're cool with that. They're having fun. It's pure jokes. Like, don't take it so seriously. It's
Mm.
all good, whatever. So for me, I was like, the moral of the story is keep my child's name out of your damn mouth, regardless of any beef that you have with anyone. Once you start talking about people, kids, it's over.
Yeah, the babies
It's
needs to
over.
be off limits.
Yep.
That's like old school. That's old
Right.
school. The babies are off
Right.
limits.
So don't even go there. So Drake and his petty, I was like, dude, I don't always have your back, but I got you on this one. High five for this one. Really
I
and
mean, this was
truly.
a good week for him. Drake
It
also got
was
a reported $400 million new deal.
from Universal.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to understand. Like, I promise you, I'm not a hater. I promise you, I'm not.
I think we're in the same
I
boat.
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I
I think Drake is moderately talented, maybe,
mm,
but not that he should have all of these charting. I mean, obviously, if we actually had to pay for Drake's music, it might be a different conversation. But since we don't actually have to pay for Drake's music, Drake actually gets to have these kind of records on billboards for charting because of the streaming that y'all do for his free music.
yep.
Like, it's giving y'all think he's good for free, but not good for pay. I don't like. I just think he's okay. Like, there's a couple of Drake songs that I've liked over the years. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
act like I've
Yeah.
like disliked everything that the man has done.
Mm-hmm.
But when I put him up against the goats that I grew up with, it's given.
Mm.
I know I sound like an old ass man right now, and I am approaching the centennial in 3 years, so that might be apropos. Like my half centennial, my 50th is like 2.5 years away, but is like how how
Mm-hmm.
compared to Jay-Z or Nas or Rakim or Chuck
Mm-hmm.
D. I mean, just like how,
You don't even
like
have to say it twice. Trust. I told you we're in the same boat. I'm not. My sis. is a hardcore. Like she used to be, anyways. Now she told me she's kind of fallen off, but back in the day, like she was at his concert. She was a Drake chick. Like she loved her Drake. Me, on the other hand, would just give her the whole, rock eyebrow and be like, get out my face. Because I'm not doing this. But again, there are some tracks that bump hard. I'm not listening to Drake for
Hmm.
lyrics. I'm not. Let's just put that out there. That's not happening. But he does have some grooves that go hard, and he has some duets that go hard. So I'm not even gonna I can't sing him on that. But there's no comparison. Who was it? There was somebody in the news the other day that had said that the new and upcoming rappers were better than, it was some youngin, of course, than the old cats that were out. Somebody said
Because
that, and
they
I'm gonna
don't
cut.
know the old cats for real. They don't
Well,
know
old
these
cats to them
albums.
is literally Jay Z. I'm talking like, you know what I mean. Like,
I
don't get
mean,
me
hell,
wrong,
old
Jay
cats to some
Z.
of them is Lil Wayne for real. Why we playing?
Exactly that. So if you're not gonna go beyond that, then I got news for you. Don't know what to tell y'all.
I
Um,
mean, better than mumble rappers, sure. You know how.
Ooh, don't get me started. Don't get me started. Let's
I
not
mean,
go there.
if we're gonna, I mean, if you want to talk about like better than a generation of rappers, maybe better than the millennial rappers, sure, I give it.
Mm.
But I just, I four
Ooh.
hundred million. I mean, and so let's just say, I mean, this is shade. I'm about to give a little generational shade.
Mm.
This is reminding me of when they get that what was a 9-figure deal with Mariah Carey after she had already done like her 10 years of her best music.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, like even if you like what's the chances that Drake's next 10 years are going to be as epic as his last 10?
They're gonna be
Like
exactly
even
the
Stevie
same.
Wonder
This is the
like
thing.
right, like even Stevie Wonder's 70s run
Mm.
is indisputably better. Even though I love In a Square Circle and Women in Red, but it's still indisputably better than his '80s run.
Of
Like
course.
it's
Of
not even
course.
it's not even up for debate,
Right.
right? So if Stevie Wonder's first 10 year, like 10-year epic run,
Hmm.
like it just doesn't, the math ain't mathing.
Right,
like
right,
you're investing in the idea that Drake is going to be as relevant and as significant and as powerful on
sir.
the charts over the next 10 years as he was over the last 10. And it's just
Sir.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
Sir.
I mean, it's not even going to be true for like a Beyonce or Rihanna. Like, so I don't really see it for Drake.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Mm. I think that's a whole other conversation.
I know,
Mm.
right? So we digressed. Like, Shaw, that was all unscripted.
It really
we
was. It
because
was.
because I am tipsy. This may be a very unscripted conversation, even though we have scripts.
That right? But that's all good. Just layer on the
Right?
flavor. But let me just add,
Exactly.
on top of that, please, y'all, people, especially my Ozark lovers, if y'all did not watch this damn season series finale that just dropped on Netflix, I don't know what to tell you. It's done. I screamed at my television during the last episode. Watch the damn thing. And I'm also late to the party, but I'm finally starting Snowfall, and I'm so excited just from a clip that I saw Dameson do that was posted on Shadow and Act. Oh my god, his caliber of acting looks phenomenal. I don't know if y'all watch Snowfall, but I'm gonna start that, and that's it for me.
That's funny considering that he had a little kerfluffle with Denzel Washington around acting, and Denzel tried to like kind of
Play him
shade him on
off.
his acting.
Right, right. I was like, that's not nice, Danzy.
Denzel uncled him a little bit. It was like, nah, Denzel, you ain't got to
Mm.
do that to that baby. He don't know no better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually waiting for Snowfall's final season, and then I'll binge the whole thing like I did Breaking Bad after it was canceled. Certain shows I
I couldn't
know
get
that I
through
would
it.
rather like. Well, no, I don't want to wait week to week. Like I didn't want to wait week to week for Lost. I watched Lost as a binge. I didn't want to wait week to week
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
for Breaking Bad. I mean, certain things. I'm also like I'm weird. I'm a little bit of a contrarian. So, if everybody's on some shit before I'm on the shit, I may be like, you know what, I'm gonna wait.
I'm always like that. I don't
Like
blame
I
you.
like to try to be on the shit before the people are on the shit.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Snowfall has always been on my radar, but I just never got to it. They're what? They're on their last season now, aren't they? Didn't it start already? The fifth one? for
Yeah,
season.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
But
So
I think
I'm
that,
starting from
but
season
is this the
one.
last one?
From what
Is
I
this the
read, I
last one?
think
I thought it.
so.
Oh, I thought they had one more after this. Well,
Oh, I'm gonna have to
maybe
look
you
that
can look
up.
it up while. Yeah, look
Yeah.
it up while I'm doing my little check-in. So my check-ins are memoirs of what I'm checking out. So I just finished Harvey Firestein's "I Was Better Last Night," a
Ooh.
memoir, and have started the life of one Miss Viola Davis in Finding Me. Now, I'm grateful for the refresher on Firestein's amazing career. For those of you who may not know who Harvey Firestein is, because you know he white, I don't be checking for white people like that. Um, but but his, too often my mind just goes to his early pioneering theater work and films with such theatrical productions as Torch Song Trilogy. If you've not seen it, gift yourself an opportunity to watch Torch Song Trilogy. It's an early queer film and it was amazing, so hilarious. And his off Broadway production of Safe Sex, and of course the '80s Torch Song film starring Matthew Broderick in a role that is considered brave, or was considered brave. Like it wouldn't be considered brave today, but back in the '80s, when the people were like Mark Hamill, like ruined his career doing Making Love in '82, Matthew Broderick was at the top of his game when he decided to do Torch Song Trilogy. So it was considered brave for him in that career to play a gay man and Harvey's lover in the film. um, I performed scenes from Torch Song when I was on a competitive forensics team and took a gold and silver medal that year in Illinois for state for my performances of queer works from James Baldwin's Tell Me How Long the Train's Been Gone and Firestein's Torch Song Trilogy. So the film always has a special place in my heart. Firestein, however, has done considerably more than Torch Song. He wrote or co-wrote the books for such hit Broadway shows as La Cage aux Folles,
Mm.
Hairspray, and Kinky Boots. All Tony Award winning smashes. Those residual coins are cute. Like them every time they license for those shows,
They were all
Miss Harvey
good.
Firestein gets a check.
Yeah.
He also started as a featured player or actor in innumerable films and television shows throughout the '90s and early aughts, and is the above the marquee star of Hairspray and Fiddler on the Roof, among other Broadway hits. I love the behind the scenes dish in the memoir and hearing about his various relationships, which no shade, he was like having all these relationships with people, um,
Mm.
and overcoming alcoholism,
Mm.
which I also did not know. I didn't realize he had that issue. But it was a fun memoir ride that left me with nothing but mad respect for Firestein. I'm hopeful that Viola's Finding Me will do the same because I'm gonna need something to cleanse my palate of her
Mm.
caricature performance of Michelle Obama in Showtime's new series, The First Lady, also starring Michelle Pfeiffer as Betty Ford and Gillian Anderson as Eleanor Roosevelt. If you'd asked me sight unseen who was going to pull out the best performance there, I would have said Davis. But it's Pfeiffer's Betty Ford that's stealing the show.
Mm.
I'm thoroughly impressed with her, or with her Ford, and Anderson is matching the formidable energy and nature of Eleanor Roosevelt, even if for real, she is too beautiful for the role of a woman whose physical plainness plays such a critical role in shaping her interests and the direction of her life. In any case, Davis is giving me Joan Crawford Kabuki Theater makeup, a
Shame.
distracting lip pursing like an elder whose gums just got taken out of their mouth.
Shamed again.
Um, like them dentures just came up,
But you're
like them
right.
dentures just right, them dentures just kept falling, and so she keep pursing them lips like them dentures just came out. Not to mention 56-year-old Davis is too old for the 14-year-old extended flashbacks that the show enjoys of a much younger Michelle Obama. Now, for real, Michelle and Davis are only 2 years apart. But when you're going back 14 years and still using 56-year-old Davis, that don't work.
Mm.
Like, especially when you pair her with the 48-year-old OT Fagbenelli. I thought that's how we say his name. It's Fagbenle. We mess up names on this show all the time. But it's giving auntie and nephew tease in those scenes that are supposed to have the famously sensual first couple marked as red hot lovers. Now everyone slips from time to time, so Davis is owed this moment, in her career to have this slip of greatness. But you do wonder why none of the directors stopped her during filming once they watched the dailies. It's giving she had no real friends on that set. In any
Mm-hmm.
case, Finding Me is starting really well. I'm being introduced to a level of poverty that I'd only seen in Gordon Parks photos, but apparently Davis lived. And I say this as someone whose origin story was episodically steeped in urban poverty in Chicago in the 1980s and early 90s. But
Mm.
even I was clutching the pearls at her rats and roaches stories. Um, so I'm looking forward, after we get past the abuse and the traumas, I'm looking forward to equally feeling emotional about her triumphs as an actress and our grand dame, not just of the Black community, but of the acting community, period. So that's what I'm checking out. Finding Me by Viola Davis, and I really did enjoy it. I Was Better Last Night by Harvey Firestein.
Finding Me is in my queue for one of my next books that I want to read. I bought myself a new iPad last month,
Mm.
and here I am skipping over um, the books, the library part, and I said, "Oh, let me just." I clicked it the other day, and I'm like, "Holy shit!" It's like library central in here. Now I am old school. I like to hold a book. I like it tangible. I like, do my doggy ears and my highlights and all of that good stuff. But I live in a small ass condo in Toronto, so there's no space for bookshelves. Okay, let's just keep it real. My books are downstairs in the locker. So I figure that I'm gonna have to start buying books anyway. I don't want to do it on anything Apple because all of them and they're keeping this and I can't do that. Can't upload PDFs. I have some books that are on PDF, so I'm thinking of getting a Kobo. However, I still started a couple of books, and Finding Me is in my queue, so I am looking forward to reading that. I have not watched the show yet because of all the clips I've seen, and she does look like a caricature of Michelle Obama, and it hurts every time I see it. It hurts. It's
Hurts
just
you. Imagine what it
yeah,
looks like for
man.
Viola Davis if she ever has to be in a room again with Michelle Obama. Can you imagine that
Oh
conversation?
my god, child, no, no, and no.
Baby, I would be ducking and dodging Miss Michelle for the next 10 years before I would be in a room with Michelle again after doing that performance. No, ma'am.
Hell yes. And you know what pops into my mind is the fact that timing is everything. So I'm sure they released the book in tandem with that show coming out because it's 1, 2, 3. They're like, okay,
Exactly.
we're gonna write it on that, and for the show to be doing like getting those kind of reviews, I'm hoping, and your book better be on point to so people can kind of erase all of that mess from their brains because yeah, it just
I
was
mean,
not
I
working.
think I enjoyed her. Like, she did a one-on-one with Oprah that's on Netflix,
Yes, yes. Mhm.
in which she talked about some of the stuff in the book. So, and even Oprah was doing like I was doing. She was like, I grew up poor, but you grew up poor, poor.
Oh
Like,
shit. My God.
so
There are
we
levels to
all were
this shit.
like, yeah, there are levels to this poverty game, maybe.
My
So
God.
yeah, I mean, even Oprah was kind of like clutching the pearls, like I was when I was listening. So I'm doing the Audible. So I'm a weird nerd. So because of my time,
Mm.
I generally don't have time to do a physical book in my hands, though I like having them. So I do have a massive lending library here in Merida, where because of my library size, I do lend out books to people in the community,
That's
and they
awesome.
return them. They're pretty good about it. So I mean, yeah, I mean, like I have like 5 7 foot shelves that are chock full of books, and that's just upstairs. That's not even counting the books that are downstairs on shelves. So yeah, I mean, I have a ridiculous number of books. It
I
is
miss that. I
it's
really do.
it is an illness. It's not one I recommend. It's a very expensive illness to maintain. But I did, so I'll listen to the Audible, and if I like the Audible, I'll buy the physical copy. And so that's what
Okay.
I've done with both Finding Me and Harvey Firestein. So they're both on the shelves for the library for my community to check out. But I'm listening to the actors read their own words, which I enjoy. I enjoy
Yeah, that's
Firestein giving his
cool.
performance about his life and Dave Viola doing the same.
Nice. Dope. Like it, like it. So dope.
So we are on da, 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 loving it. Opening with those stories that are positive, that we absolutely love and recommend people check out. But before we do that, let's make sure, before we ruin all of your experiences with us, that you like, subscribe, follow, and check us out
Oh,
on all of the platforms. So make sure that you're you're following and subscribing. And if you can, comment on us. Maybe not this episode, but another episode. Where we were
Whatever
sober
tickles your
and
fancy, y'all.
yes, where we were sober and adulting. Let's it sounded more like NPR, right? Like, so give we were giving that. So all right, AMC, what are you loving?
Right now, I'm going to say that I'm loving Revenge of the Black Best Friend. That is like I just wrote a piece about it actually on byblacks.com. So as usual, we'll drop the link when we do all our fancy uploading and stuff. So Revenge of the Black Best Friend is actually a digital series on CBC Gem. CBC, which I've mentioned before, is the Canadian Broadcasting. I don't even remember what the last word is. That's horrible.
I'm hoping it's channel or corporation.
Corporation. That's it. Thank you.
All right.
But of course, CBC, that's what we call it here. So CBC Gem, which is the digital branch of CBC. But you can also, actually, you can't anymore because it had already played last month. But this series is the brainchild of creative Amanda Paris. And Amanda is very dope peoples. She has done a lot on the arts end. She's the host of a few shows up here, CBC Arts Exhibitionist. You would love that show, LMG. It's very much
Mm,
about our arts. You can still find everything, all of these things on CBC Gem, and most likely on YouTube. You can find clips. If you find CBC and look for Arts Exhibitionist, Exhibitionist was about the underground arts sector in Toronto, the filmmakers, and from the vaults. And she's also the radio host of Marvin's Room. Marvin's Room is awesome, where she digs deep into R&B and soul, and talks about the backstories behind songs, etc., etc. So her play, Other Side of the Game, was awarded the Governor General Literary Award for Drama. That was in 2019. And she just recently, and I'm talking last month, won 3 Canadian Screen Awards. So that's an equivalent to maybe your Emmys. She's an
nice.
educator, researcher, an actor, and a community organizer. She does not play. Just returned from the Cannes Series Festival. And Revenge of the Black Best Friend was actually presented for short form competition. So, trust me when I tell you, I think you guys would love this. I was invited to the premiere last month, and it was a night of laughter, tears, and that was from the laughter, and screaming at the screen. So I felt like a kid again, where it was a theater full of black people, black and white, but it was a heavy theater full of black people. Excuse me, screaming and carrying on, and the screen was just catching heat. It was hilarity. The response was just absolutely fantastic. So the show is layered, and it's an amazing piece of work. It teams with satire, comedy, social prejudices, and the lead character, Dr. Tony Shakur, gives it to you straight, no chaser. It's pure jokes. So the episodes touch upon the biases that black actors deal with daily. And we're not thinking just in a Canadian platform, we're thinking Hollywood, Canada. I mean, it could be a universal platform, really. But think of the first person to die in a horror film is always the black character, if there is one, right? So think that. And she also tackles the fine line of stereotypical tropes that are usually handed down in Hollywood. You usually play the gangster, you play the pimp, the same shit all the time. So it's brilliantly written and it's amazingly presented. And I think she deserves all the accolades. So watch it. She, as I said, doesn't only touch upon Canadian perspectives. If you loved Astronomy Club, I loved that show. I was really, really vexed that it got cut and canceled after the first season. I thought it was hilarious. I thought Ice Cube they had me in tears. I loved that show. And if you like, sketch shows in its entirety, you would love this show. So check it out. You will find it on CBC Gem. If you guys in the Americas and the American syndicates there, if you guys can get in and make accounts and do all of that on CBC Arts, because I know the internet can be funny, then go right ahead and do so. If not, I would say to check YouTube, but at least we'll drop the link for the trailer so you can check it out.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think we might have gotten away from the trope of the black person dying early in a horror movie. I think even the whites are now aware that they can't kind of pull that off anymore. It
Let's
was
hope.
all true, like from like the 60s through the 90s.
Mm,
But I think it's gotten a little better about that in more recent years. Um, but yeah, I look forward to checking that out. And I love a foreign show. I'm a total Anglophile when it comes to BBC shows.
I know you are.
So
Hmm.
and I do check out a few Canadian shows. I'm not immune to the Canadian influence. Well,
I
that
think you're
sounds
back.
awesome.
Mm.
We got to check that out. So on a different front, while most of the headlines regarding the 1980s reign of the Lakers has been about the controversial HBO Max series Winning Time, the real MVP about that era and its stars lives on Apple Plus. They Call Me Magic is a time portal back to the Lansing, Michigan childhood, Lakers dominance, and the will he won't he romance with Cookie, as well as the ultimate AIDS hero and business maverick life of one Mr. Irving Magic Johnson.
No
The
way.
series, yes, way.
I didn't even hear about this. I think I was so locked in on the Lakers legacy thing that they're doing on HBO. I completely forgot about
Yeah,
this one.
which is kind of unfortunate and sad because I think that this series is as compelling as the Jordan one. I mean, obviously the Jordan one was
Really?
longer and certainly much more
Oh.
detailed, but Jordan is also just like fundamentally not a nice guy. Like, I think that's what I walked away from the series saying, oh, he's an asshole.
He's an
Like
asshole.
he's a
Yeah.
successful asshole. He's an incredible aspirational figure, but he's also an
Hmm.
asshole.
Hmm.
Um, I did not walk away from that feeling about Irvin Magic Johnson. This docu series is unflinching, though, in its look
Hmm.
at the highs and lows of the life of Magic Johnson as a basketball player,
Hmm.
as a fuckboy to Cookie,
Mm.
as a father to both his inside and outside married sons, including his queer namesake,
Hmm.
and adopted daughter. The inside track of his HIV journey from diagnosis, and ultimately his position as one of the franchise pioneers of urban business with the Magic Johnson Theaters,
Yeah.
which incidentally folks thought would fail,
Mm.
Starbucks, and mixed use affordable housing, real estate, and retail ventures across the country.
Oh wow.
The exceptional friendship between he and Isaiah Thomas of the Detroit Pistons is covered.
Word.
Songs the rumors that they were ever lovers, which is what
Hmm.
I grew up hearing in the
Yeah.
gay community back in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah, I heard
We'll
that
throw
too.
an allegedly there because we don't know. This is again a rumor.
Hmm.
But so what their epic breakup due to basketball competitiveness is what the story we're being told, is what ended their friendship. But their reunion was not covered, though it was kind of alluded to, right? Like it was alluded that they had somehow recovered at some point, but they didn't go into the details about that as they did about the friendship and the breakup.
Mm.
Though it was more tearfully covered in recent years outside of this documentary. There's YouTube video of Magic and Isaiah crying and making up, that came out like in the last 3 years. Um, However, the shade that I did not know was how badly he treated his college sweetheart Cookie for nearly a decade,
Mm.
and how he just in timed it, right? Like, since almost as soon as he finally relented after multiple false starts of them supposed to be getting married and him changing his mind,
Hmm.
like multiple times. Like he was runaway groom multiple times, right?
What?
Right? Like almost immediately after they got married, finally, and she was pregnant, Magic was diagnosed with HIV. Right? So that timing was very cute for him because she is the rock that helped him get through that
For
whole
sure.
era.
For sure.
I mean, and had she done anything any differently, the public would have totally turned on Magic. Like they were totally looking at Cookie to see how she handled it as the wife
Right.
and as a pregnant mother at the time, a pregnant
I
woman at
didn't
the
even.
time.
I had no idea that they had just got married. That I thought they were together
Like
for the
literally.
longest.
They were off and on. They met in college. He, gave I'm into you, I live, was love at first sight kind of thing. And then, they split up when he left college early to go into the NBA,
Hmm.
and she went on and had a career as in fashion. And they kept going back and forth for like the next decade. Like they would be together
Wow.
for some years, break up, be together for some years, break up. He engaged. He asked her to marry her twice,
Hmm.
reneged twice.
Oh my
like,
god.
so he owes her. I mean, and it's very clear that everybody like there's like interviews with her friends, her besties, her three besties who don't cut no cards.
Hmm.
I mean, and it's clear that whoever he was in the '80s, he's cleaned up his act since then. Right? There's like a redemption
I
arc
would
there.
think he even has to.
There's no way I wouldn't have lasted. You only got one time to break an engagement with me. Like
Oh
multiple
yeah,
breakups?
I'm
No,
not there for
no.
all of that shit. No. Mm-mm. No.
Like
You
I
got
just have
time.
as any ex will tell you of mine, I have way too much pride. So but in any way, the series definitely chronicles where we were at that time around HIV and how
Mhm.
Magic went from reluctant announcement out of necessity to global HIV advocate, really.
Right.
The Dream Team gets covered. His two attempts to return to the NBA gets covered. The first was thwarted, mind you, after his Dream Team wins with the Olympics by his HIV homophobic or no HIV phobic, not homophobic. That was a Freudian slip. Excuse me, y'all. Players he thought were his friends and colleagues, people who had just literally played with him on the Dream Team, were leading the charge that he shouldn't be allowed to play in the NBA.
Hmm.
And his journey to accept his gender nonconforming gay son, Irvin 3.
Hmm.
It was a revealing delight, and I enjoyed every bit of the journey. Throughout, you understand the early promise, the privilege, and the discipline that led to a storied career that started in high school.
Hmm.
Like he was a star in high school, like
Hmm.
Maury making headlines then, and hasn't really let up to this day. So They Call Me Magic is on Apple Plus and eagerly awaits you with a magic smile.
I have to watch this, and just listening to stuff like this that makes me wish my daddy was around because we would definitely sit down and soak this up and have a great conversation after. I had no idea that he was that asshole. Like, honest to God. And he had to, like you were saying that, he kind of redeemed himself and came through. But I'm like, you had to. Because I'm sure Cookie was like, listen, bitch, it's not going to happen like this. This is gonna how it's gonna happen, and you're gonna jump. When I say jump, you're gonna jump. This is what's gonna happen. And my bro was like, "Yep, okay." That was it. There was no conversation. That was the conversation. So I'm glad that she most probably just gave it to him and read him his rights, and look where it's gotten him today. So, wow, I'm intrigued, and I'm gonna watch this. Definitely gonna watch this.
Yeah, I mean it's a great. I mean, and if you're of a younger generation who didn't grow up with Magic Johnson as a basketball player, it's quite an education. I grew
Mm,
up as a kid seeing Magic Johnson. I wasn't a basketball person, but I was still aware of his dominance all over the media. This smiling black man, this giant of a black man
yeah.
who was considered a success. I grew up with that, and then watched him pass that torch to Michael Jordan, who I was then in high school and like way more aware of Michael Jordan when he won for Chicago, which is where I'm from. Like I
Mhm.
still have incredible memories of Michael Jordan's win for the Bulls. Um,
Can you
the
imagine?
day that we won, like people in the streets downtown, people sitting on top of cars. It was amazing. It was one of those moments I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm here for this historic moment.
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
actually visually watching it in Chicago in real time. It was crazy.
Mhm,
Anyway,
mhm.
so yeah, check out They Call Me Magic on Apple Plus. It's not getting a lot of press. It should be. It's so good.
Wow. Why do you think it's not getting a lot of press? That's odd to
I
me.
think the winning time story is more interesting. You know, you have basketball players from that era complaining. You got, is it or is it not true story? I think the press is much more interested in that kind of salaciousness. I mean, this is not, outside of the cookie stuff,
Mm,
this is not a salacious documentary, right? Like, this is
okay.
not, you know, they allude to things, right? Like Magic was known for his fabulous parties that everybody came to, So it wasn't like it's given. Oh,
Okay.
was there cocaine, on the bottom mountains at that party? Like, like
Right.
it's
Right.
not, it's were there people sleep, having orgies? Like, it's not given
Mhm.
that, right? So,
Got you. Got you.
I think that's compared to Winning Time, where there, lots of controversy around that. I think it just kind of got lost in the sauce. And and Apple Plus doesn't always do a great job. They have like some of the best prestige TV happening right now, but they don't always do a great job of promoting it.
True. Very true. Very true. It's usually when it catches on
So
by word of mouth. Yeah. All right. Cool.
exactly. So what is your It's Complicated this week, AMC? And for those who don't know, It's Complicated are those stories we have mixed feelings about. We love certain aspects of it, but we recognize it can be problematic or an incomplete solution to a problem that it's addressing, or it just has elements that keep us from all the way loving it. So what do you have for us?
So I actually lifted this one from your page. And the funny thing is, I changed it because I didn't feel like talking about Pete and Miss Kim Kardashian anymore. So I'm going to leave them where they are. But this I lifted from your Facebook page because I wanted to talk about this with you and see what you thought. So, my thing it's to lip sync Bob or not to. This is the question here. So we're talking about the new Bob Marley movie that is going to be presented to us by Ronaldo Marcus Green. Excuse me, who is the director behind lovely movie that just won. Oh gosh, wow, we're running into Will, but anyways, that Will won Best Actor for excuse me, which was King Richard. So he is now tapped to do this new Bob Marley movie, and he is now well, casting what's his name, Kingsley Ben Adir. So the name might not ring a bell. However, for those of you who watched One Night in Miami, he played Malcolm X. So I'm talking about Regina King's movie, and it was fabulous. And Kingsley Ben-Adir played. I feel he did a great job playing Malcolm. He was fantastic. Now he's an emerging actor, British actor, and he seems to be doing really well for himself. The only problem is he cannot sing. So, I mean, for some people, it's not a problem. And I know for LMG, it's not a problem. He was like, lip sync your life away, bruh. So, my thing is, well, the director actually stated that there may be a mix of tracks and Benadir's voice. They're not sure as yet. But my take is like when you can sing, it brings a more earthy and personal aura to the character. Like I remember I believe off the top of my head, the one person that comes up is what's her name? Gwyneth Paltrow. When he did that country movie, she sang all of her songs. And I was actually like, I mean, she's not a big singer. She can carry a tune. Um she did a okay job. She did a pretty good job. But it's kind of nice. I think it just brings more to the character if you can sing and actually do. It's almost like you're acting. God damn it! So it's like you're bringing your lyrics to life. So you're bringing the persona to life. But as LMG said, on the other hand, there are people that are like, well, shit, if you can lip sync it, do it. Like there's lip sync your heart away. You can do it. Go ahead. So what I'm honestly terrified about, to be quite honest, is the accent. I Y'all know already that Caribbean, especially Jamaicans, do not translate well on screen in Hollywood. That's just it. The best that I've seen thus far is actually Jimmy Akingbola as Jeffrey on Bel Air, and dude is Nigerian. Okay, so Of course, there's coaching. There's going to be a lot of coaching done, and et cetera, et cetera. But still, sometimes the coaching doesn't translate well. So that's going to kind of be a we shall see kind of thing. As an actor, I think he's going to do amazing. I think that he's going to bring a lot to the character. The way that he played Malcolm X was so calming and soothing, and he came across exactly how I envisioned Malcolm would be. So I'm sure that he'll be able to transform himself into Bob. Again, I'm just really, really scared about the accent, and I really wished that he would be singing. But you can't have it all. What do you think, LMG? Do you care if he can lip sync like a mofo, or would you rather hear him sing?
I think you already have nailed it. Like I want him to lip sync for his life. I feel like we have it takes away. Bob Marley has a very distinctive singing voice.
Mm-hmm.
And while there was like a American Idol, not American Idol, what is that other show? The Voice
Oh
clip that
yes,
went around about an amazing vocalist who like imitated Bob Marley great, in an
I
amazing
remember.
way.
Mm-hmm.
um, I still feel like, let him lip sync. And we watched in What's Love Got to Do with It lip syncing. I think Walk the Line, there might have been lip syncing about Johnny
Oh,
Cash.
Johnny
And
Cash. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you know, I think that, yeah, I mean, it's cool. I mean, sometimes the voice, I mean, like Jamie Foxx with Ray Charles, like,
Mm.
But Jamie
Mm-hmm.
Foxx is a mimic, right? Like
Yes.
that's actually part of his comedic stick,
Mm-hmm.
is that he can mimic almost anybody singing. Like he's talented as a mimic, but most actors are not necessarily talented mimics in that way. I enjoy Ronaldo Marcus Green's films. I've been a fan of his since Gun Hill Road, where he discussed a Latino family dealing with sexuality of a teenage gay son.
Mm-hmm.
In the relationship between the dynamic relationship between his more machismo father. Monsters and Men was another interesting indie film. King Richard was kind of his breakout out from the indies to more mainstream films. So I'm glad that that has worked out in his favor.
Mm-hmm.
Though apparently he's now like asking to do the next James Bond, and it's like, let's not punch too high above our weight.
Yeah. One
like,
step at a
like
time,
I
huh?
don't know. Yeah, I don't know that we're quite there. Let's get another King Richard under our belt before we start asking for $300 million budgets. I enjoy Kingsley Ben Adair. I enjoyed him in High Fidelity. He was the love interest in
Mm-hmm.
that TV show with Zoe Kravitz. I obviously loved him in One Night in Miami. I think he'll do the role fine. I mean, his mother is Trinidadian, so
Yeah.
he's not immune to. I mean, his father's white Brit. He's one of those biracial Black Brits that have come to dominate our American screens. so, but yeah, I mean, I don't think. I mean, obviously, Trinidadian accent is different from a Jamaican accent, but I
Way
think
different.
he's but I don't. I think he's, his experience in Caribbean UK is probably enough that he should be able to nail that accent without too much of a problem.
Let's hope.
Um, I mean, it's like, while the UK Jamaican accent is different, you can still hear that Jamaican influence there. Like
Of
it's still
course.
present.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I mean, obviously they're going to put him with a good dialect coach. I'm sure part of the reason why they were like, "Oh, we may do mixture of tracks and things," because they don't know whether or not he's going to be able to pull off the vocals yet.
Right.
And they're giving themselves some wiggle room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I would be perfectly fine with him just emoting and lip syncing to a really good Bob Marley track. Like, give us a demo. Like, don't give us the actual studio recordings every time. Give us like a demo version that we haven't heard
Right.
before, or a live
Right.
concert version that we haven't heard before, so that we can feel like it's real. I think that
Yeah.
that's what you do in that instance.
Got you. Got you. Yeah. Sounds
And no,
good.
that was a great. It's complicated because it definitely is complicated. Mine, at the time of this recording on May 5th at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is unconfirmed, but it looks like Manosphere, god of misogynoir,
Mm,
56-year-old Kevin Samuels, has gone to meet his maker and answer for spreading his gospel of hate against black women.
mhm,
Reportedly, he died of cardiac arrest in his apartment. That's what's being reported. We don't know for sure if that's real yet.
mhm,
So this is an allegedly. Sadly, this will likely make the self proclaimed image consultant and relationship quote unquote guru a martyr among the army of black incels who have cleaved on to his message of hate. For those who may not be familiar with Kevin Samuels, his greatest hits on we say Al Gore's internet, but
mhm,
on Al Gore's internet refers to single black women over 35 as a party of one.
mhm,
He's helped popularize such ideas as a high value man, low value woman, leftover women, usually referring to educated professional black women over the age of 35 who are still single or
mhm,
divorced, and declaring with authority that accomplished women who want an equally yoked man must get comfortable with man sharing.
mm,
In interviews, he's made a habit of dismissing, cutting off, and disparaging women who have come on the show, and reading women who want an equally yoked man by telling them they must get comfortable with that, with man sharing, and just kind of dismissing things like feminism, women as a whole, womanism, and most any real progress made toward gender equality. Men who supported these ideas also get handled, as they usually do in the manosphere echo chamber of toxic masculinity.
mhm,
They get dismissed as being betas or simps. The only reason this man's death is complicated for me is because we aren't yet 100 that he's dead. This all could be cloud chasing act. Who knows? And we're culturally not opposed to celebrate. We're not culturally supposed to celebrate the death of black people, right? Like, and he's still a black man who
mm.
is of note. What he's of note for is, of course, evil and hate and besides noir, but okay, but he's of
Yeah.
note. Um, but when they've gone out of their way to be this harmful in life for profit, clout, and attaboys from incels who will never get laid, it's hard not to do a little praise dance on that their grave.
Mhm,
So the death of Kevin Samuels it's complicated. Potential reported death. So we're still waiting. How do you feel
mm.
about the potential reported death of Kevin Samuels, AMC?
My mom and dad taught me that if I have nothing good to say, not to say anything at all. Therefore,
So
I'm
this
just
is why
gonna
we need
leave
like
it
special
at.
effects. We need like a cricket special effects right here, right in this moment.
I'm just like, bro, you had nothing but slander and just I you had nothing for me. Like you would run over me with your truck forward and backward first. Shit, I'm 47, single with a 4-year old. Woo, boy, I would be really high up on that leftover woman list, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Professional black woman. So yeah, I wouldn't have anything nice to say. Honest to God, I'd be tap dancing on this grave with my Michael Jackson socks on. There's no way.
Not with the Michael Jackson socks.
Yes, glittering like a mofo. I'm not even gonna lie.
Not
So
leaving a trail of glitter behind you. Oh my god.
yes, yes, plumes of dust. I I
Mm.
I don't have anything nice to say, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. I always feel like it's funny because you had a great statement in there where you said that we're not supposed to celebrate the death of black people, and I'm not, I won't say that I'm torn, but when it comes to people who have spent their life, um, you know, degrading people and just being condescending, vilifying people, and then they die and people are like rest in peace. I'm like, do you really mean that though? Really? You don't. So I mean, if you want to say bitch burn, then burn. I mean, it's not it's not something that, again, my parents would teach me to say, but if that's what you're thinking, don't drop a rest in peace. And it doesn't matter if the person is black, purple, orange, or green. I think that it's about that person's character, personality, what they've projected their entire life. There's no way you're going to get any ounce of respect from me if during your whole life you've been that type of person and then you die. Well, you died. That's it. Moving on.
Well, AMC, while you were talking, I just double checked because we had gotten the news a couple hours earlier. Revolt TV has confirmed
Mm-hmm.
with reliable sources that YouTube sensation and self proclaimed relationship guru Kevin Samuels has indeed passed away today.
Mm.
And for those who want to get a taste of his most popular videos, though we probably shouldn't like give him any more than he's already
No.
gotten in life.
Mm-mm.
How much do you cost to submit was the name of one video. Modern women are average at best was
Mm.
another. And on that leftover tip, he said, if you live to 35 and you're not married, you're a leftover.
Mm.
You're left over.
Thank you.
Men know you may have a problem, whether you want to hear it or not. I'll go with you. I'm telling you the truth you don't want to hear. So it's like a taste of kind of who he was. But Revolt TV is confirming that he is indeed dead.
Mm.
Well, may he rest wherever he is.
I like that,
In
and I'm
any
going to use
case,
that. May he rest wherever he is. I love that.
may, alcohol does strange things. May he rest wherever he is. Reminder, be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share on whatever platform you're listening to and watching us on. Also, comment or review where possible so that we can climb the charts of the various platform algorithms the show is on. Now, back with the show.
Before we get
AMC.
to just now, sorry, let me just jump in
Oh,
there
go ahead. Yeah, let
because
me jump on in, honey.
we were discussing Snowfall earlier, and I did check, and you were right. They have signed on for a sixth and final season. So season 5 is running now. Season 6 is going to come along, and then that's the end of that. But I have like 5 seasons to get through, so I might as well just start.
See, you don't know my ministry. I am the king of a binge. So I will have gotten through those 5 seasons within like 2 weeks and
Yeah,
be like mad that I have to wait a year for that sixth season to come through. So that's
I'm
why I
right
gotta
there
wait
with
for the whole
you.
thing to be over.
I am right now. I'm no joke right there with you. I'm a binger. I don't like to watch like day week by week and new episode. I'm like, no, 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 no. Give me a season so I can sit down, binge the whole thing, and done. But I know, man. Remember, my binging happens like at night after the kids asleep. My eyes are
Mm.
burning, so sometimes I don't make it through like the 2 or 3 episodes I really want to do. It'll take me longer. I'll get frustrated. I want to binge because I need to know what's going on. So I still have Euphoria. I still have all of these crazy shows to do. So I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna start Snowfall. I really do want to start it. I've been dying to do so.
Look, I get it. One of the reasons why I'm such an Anglophile about British shows is that they generally are like 6 to 10 episodes top, sometimes as
And they're
little as
done.
4.
Yeah.
And they're done. So I can get a whole story, like, even though it's so funny. So I mean, this is completely off topic, and this is not our just know. But like, so I just finished watching like the first 5 seasons of Shetland, which is this cop show based in Scotland, Shetland's Islands.
Hmm.
And the whole time I'm like, could I live there? Oh my God, they look so like I love the landscapes. Oh, look at the water. Oh, but the town, they look like they don't got seasoned food. The people look so pale. I don't know if I could stay there. I mean, like I'm literally season after season having an inner monologue about whether or not I could live in these small UK towns where murder seems to happen, all the damn time.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's not an issue, LMG.
No, I mean it's like, but it's 50% of why I'm watching these shows. Like, can I live? Can I endure? Because there's a part of me that's attracted to it, and a part of me that is completely repulsed by the drabness of it all.
Mm.
Um, It's like it's no wonder y'all drink pipes all the time and like are alcoholics, right? But I'm also kind of like, could then I become like a total ugly American about it, and I'm like, could I y'all seem to have a lot of crime over there. Right, because I'm only watching mysteries, right? I'm only watching police procedurals. Like, you seem to have a lot of crime over there in these small towns. Y'all
Mm,
white people are a little out of control with the crime, ain't they?
you have nerve.
Right, as an American, I really do have
Right.
nerve.
Seriously. Oh
But
my
I'm like, I don't.
God.
Is it safe? Would I be safe? I don't know if I would be safe. So like in my inner monologue about my relocation to the UK.
Oh my God. But leave it up to you though. It's like I speak to you next week and you'd be like, oh, I'm in the UK. It's like, oh
As a
man.
visit only. I hear too much about like I like good food. I can't. I don't know if I could sustain on just fish and chips,
Oh.
right?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Going to the Indian curry restaurants every day because I just need some flavor, right?
You better walk with your shit. You better walk with them
Listen,
spices. Oh my
listen.
God.
All right, MC, what do you have for just now?
Mm.
Now that I've turned off our entire UK audience.
We love you. We love you. It's gonna be our theme song soon. Um,
Right.
so for just now this week, I read an article about a Minnesota teacher that cut a black teen's hair without permission, and I'm so tired of reading these headlines. So let me give you guys a little backstory. A young boy went to school and he wasn't satisfied with the lineup of his haircut, and he mentioned it in his class. And his teacher decided to take matters into their own hands, grabbed a pair of scissors, and literally jacked up the child's hair, sent him back home. And now, on top of that, no one at the school notified the parents about this occurring. So the child went home, looked at his parents, and said, "Would you be mad at me?" And they're like, "Why would it be mad?" And he took off his little hat and he's like, "My teacher and I cut my hair." So here's the thing. These incidences have been happening way too often. We've seen them in the news so many times. There are so many that can be counted, and I'm sure that there's some that we never even caught wind of. There are so many things that happen. Um, Now, anytime I read anything like that, it brings me back to the one that really, really hit me was in 2019, the incident when a young black wrestler had his locks shorn off during a competition at a New Jersey high school. Watching that video literally makes me ill. He was distraught. He was crying. He was like, you can see that he was just a mess. He was a mess. And it was heartbreaking to watch. So, this is not it for me. When I see these bold and brazen people take matters into their own hands regarding how black children's hair and bodies are regulated, it makes me vex. And especially now when I think about my son, and if something like this was to be done to him, y'all, I'm telling you, your girl would catch a case. And I hope y'all love me enough to gather some bail money to come get your sis out. Because
Let's just start that cash up for you now.
please and thank you. Because this is not the way to go. Like it's not. So so many questions run through my mind. I'm like, who are they to be policing anyone? Better yet, any child's like body or being, and who are they to unlawfully put their hands on people's children, black children? And yeah, the ref was banned. I believe, yeah, I think he was banned after the incident, the wrestling incident, and we have no idea what happened to the teacher as yet because we haven't heard anything. But that's besides the point. This is not the first time that something like this has occurred, and it's occurred and it has been in the news. It's not like we haven't seen it, and these things are. Um, I haven't seen anything that's happened here in Canada. These stories are from the States. So if these things from the States are hitting here, what do you think, like, what do you think we're sitting here thinking about? It's the same thing. It's where we have our black bodies and they're being policed the same way. You guys may not hear about it, but trust me, they are being policed the same way. So, I mean, I'm talking to the people here that are really confident enough to do without even thinking about repercussions. Like, what is your thought process? What makes this okay to do? I'm sure that we don't have listeners that are that ignorant because really and truly. But, it makes me wonder what is going on in your head that makes it okay to put your hands on somebody else's child and cut their hair. Their hair is part of their being. It's their body. Ugh, I can't. I just it really really makes me irate. And I had my first bout with an incident at school where my son, and he's only 4. He's in junior kindergarten, y'all. And it wasn't anything remotely close to this, but I was a little shook when I initially found out information from my child and mom parents in the class rather than via the school. So it was something where, thankfully I love his teacher. I love his ECE. They're amazing. And I spoke to his teacher, and he said, it wasn't such a big issue where we thought we'd have to call, but we did address it in class, and we know our little Z. He's very mild mannered. He's a sweetheart. He's very kind. So he was just mimicking other kids. But at the same time, I would like to know what's going on with my kid in school when it comes to, you know, behavior, either with children or with teachers, adults, whatever it is. So I'm surprised that the school never called. Not surprised, but I am surprised that the school never called the parents to let them know what was going on. So I'm still navigating this whole school life and all of these new things that are happening. But I can tell you one thing: anyone touch my child and there'll be consequences to deal with. I ain't even playing. This is not right. It's not right. I'm finished.
So
I'm off my
everybody
soapbox.
begin. So everybody begin saving for
Please.
our future GoFundMe for in our free AMC movement. We're gonna make sure we have a free AMC movement. We're gonna support our sister,
Let me get these
white
t-shirts.
people because Caucasity is gonna Caucasian, and we're gonna have to make sure we protect our sister and her son. So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I don't know that Canadians have the audacity of Americans. I think that some of this is just American audacity, which
You'd be
white people
surprised.
gonna white is something that happens all over the world, right? And
Hmm.
that's not unique to, but audacity is something uniquely American and maybe Brit, because the Brits are known for their audacity too, right?
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. So maybe that's why we haven't heard these stories as much from Canada.
No, I
But
think not to cut you. Sorry about that.
no, go ahead.
I think the thing with our stories, I find that our stories only translate to the American side when they're like really really heavy. So you guys would most probably hear, like, I know you guys heard about the guy that went down Young Street plowing all of the people down the road. This was like 3 or 4 years ago. I know that made it to the
Hmm.
states. I know that, like, our,
Hmm.
our stories have to be really big. The trucking convoy, that all made it to the States because of the pandemic and everything that was happening. So there are certain things and certain stories that make it there. But when it comes to US news, US news is very prevalent. And we have a lot of the US channels up here. Like, I'm sure, well, I don't even know how other countries will go about doing that, but we have a large contingency of U.S. channels and just U.S. culture and everything like that here. So we're right on top of you guys. You guys are our cousins, right? But when it comes to Canada's news to the U.S., it's totally different, and especially living, like, let's say, like in New York. When I was living in New York, there's no way in shit I would hear anything about Canada unless it was like dire straits. So you guys don't get our news the way that we get your news. It's not funneled the same way. There's no I would never in life say that it's funneled the same way. But a lot of that shit does happen. Canadians, white Canadians, they have the audacity, trust me, There is a particular Instagram account that we have up here, with that tells you the stories of a lot of the kids, some of the black kids, and some of the school boards who face racism every day. They're being called nigger, and then nothing's being done about it. We have very racist school boards up here. There's so many different, you know, topics and you know, I can't even find the word, but they really and truly, there are different topics that you guys don't hear. You guys are usually not privy to, but unless it's something that's really, really poignant, then it will find its way across the border.
I mean, America is very much like New York. We think we're the center of everything, and if it's not happening here, it kind of doesn't matter. Like I,
Exactly.
I'm
It's true.
learning. I'm learning a lot about the Japan, Korea um, tension and experience through the TV show Pachinko. Like I wasn't aware of any of that, right?
Mm,
Like, and I'm a fairly learned man.
hmm
I'm learning about. I watched a couple of documentaries on Amazon Prime about from the '60s. Both of them are from um, Steve McQueen,
hmm
right?
hmm
One was about the fire that happened in the '80s at the party at the Lovers Rock party in the community that was said, historically rumored to be caused by a Mazel Tov cocktail or a canister thrown into the party by racists, right? Because there was a lot of white racist bombing, fire bombings happening at that time in the '80s in the UK.
hmm
And that one was like super powerful. I think it's called Uprising. And then the other one was about the Black British experience with their civil rights movement in the '60s.
Yeah.
Um, and, again, not history that, I mean, we're barely taught about our own civil rights movement, right? So we're definitely not taught about like the Black Brits experience in the UK. But where there were a lot of parallels. I mean, in some of the nastiness, it was also one of those things where I was like, yeah, I probably can't live in the UK.
Mm,
Like
mm,
the level of nastiness from the police was just, we have our own stuff, but I don't know. It seemed as pernicious, if not as worse in some ways. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, we don't get that stuff unless thanks to like the global streaming services, we're getting a little bit more outside of
mm,
our purview. I
hmm
mean, even when we living in Mexico for now almost a year and a half, um, you know, we there's just a lot of stuff we don't get. It's true.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
one thing we're all gonna get is the Roe versus Wade rollback,
Oh boy.
which is my hating it,
Yeah.
hated it, not loving it. So I love the book and series The Handmaid's Tale. However, I have no desire to actually live in the world of Gilead.
Okay.
With Politico magazine having broken all of the internet with their leaked early draft of the Supreme Court of the United States repeal of the 50-year-old Roe versus Wade ruling
Mhm.
that ultimately gave women bodily autonomy over their pregnancies from coast to coast, we have another step toward the world that the American Taliban has been seeking. I should probably say up front that I'm pro-choice and I believe in women's bodily autonomy, and I think that this is trash. So, along with the rollbacks on teaching honest American history, book bannings, and reproductive rights rollbacks, what's coming next is the rollback of the 2015 Arbiger. Oh, I can never say this right.
Albert,
Uh,
isn't it Albertville?
Abergefell versus Hodges decision by the SCOTUS that gave us same sex marriage. The
Mhm.
foundation of gay marriage lay in the bedrock of that privacy assumptions that were rendered in Roe. And this will come after the rollback of the 1979 Backey case that gave mostly white women, if we're to be honest, and some black and some BIPOC folks affirmative action in hiring and education, thanks to another case before the SCOTUS this session to be decided sometime in July of this year.
Mhm.
Collectively, they mark a return to the 1950s, a time rife with conformity, forced conformity, segregation, homophobia, trans prejudice, and legally codified gender inequalities. known to the right as the good old days,
Mm.
in the interim, against a right wing juggernaut that has no compunction about using any and every trick in the book to get its way in the state houses they mostly control throughout the US, and still managed to control in the Senate without having a majority vote. Um, you know, the response from our so called saviors, the Dems, has been mealy mouth, weak, and the funders that support defensive progressive causes often are short sighted and underwhelming in their funding. All of this leaves women, particularly BIPOC women, people of color, queer folks, and other outsiders vulnerable to any and every kind of legally sanctioned and supported attack, suppression, and yes, oppression. The pendulum has always swung really hard from far right to moderate left. We don't ever get it swinging all the way left, child. Not in this country. In periods marked by decades rather than years. We are at a pivotal moment right now in which all of the progressive assumptions we've relied on are in peril. As long as we have a 6-3 to SCOTUS, a Democratic Party unwilling to eliminate the filibuster to defend their constituents and pass their agendas, and a progressive apparatus so focused on a shiny ball of federal policies and systems that it completely ignores the state houses that actually impact the day to day lives of individuals on the ground. But rather than about that or those things, we'd rather Monday morning quarterback the I told you so's of the Trump versus election or Hillary versus Hillary election, where both Hill and black women writ large warned of what a Trump election would mean for the next two generations,
Mhm.
particularly for those women who voted by 54% for Trump. In any
Mhm.
case, and who
Yep.
white women specifically, make sure I get that
Right.
clarified, 54% of white women. And who is responsible for the mess we find ourselves in now. I personally would much prefer us be engaged in a conversation about how we're going to protect and service women and other vulnerable populations against the sea of regressive policies that threaten anyone not able bodied, cisgendered, male, and white. Where's our Marshall Plan to save us from the foolishness of the right? I hate where we are right now and where we're going to be just because the defenses are so weak. And it's a large part of the reason why I'm an expat who has no plans of living in the States ever again.
Mm.
Because we've seen this movie before, folks. And this movie never ends well for Black folks, queer folks, or women.
Yeah.
AMC, how are you feeling about the fall or the potential fall, since we still haven't had it officially happen? It's just kind of, we know it's about to happen, of
Yeah.
Roe versus Wade.
That's really scary. I mean, um, I hear you about it's a large part why you would never live in the States again, and I'm right there with you. And you're American. I am not. However, I once upon a time thought that that would be the place that I would actually stay and start a career and kind of root myself and start anew. And I'm happy to say that I think I was there at maybe the best times. Obama was just sworn into office and all of that goodness. And but again, too, your recession happened, and that's why I caught my tail home. So, um, when it comes down to Roe versus Wade, and I haven't read as much as I should, to be quite honest, but just hearing that they were actually looking to repeal it was enough for me. I was like, wow. So there goes pro choice. There goes, you know, a woman
Gay
having
marriage.
the shit. I mean, there's just so many things that are interconnected, and there are so many things that are slowly unraveling, and they've been unraveling over time, especially since Trump was in office.
Hmm.
He's been, he's steadily just taking the needle and just pulling the thread. And even with him not being there, because he already set all of these things in motion, now everything is starting to really crumble. And I think that unfortunately, um, what's coming up is going to be one hell of an atomic bomb. It really, and it's what's scary about it too is like the when we spoke about it previously on previous podcasts, the laws that Florida had put into effect, um, regarding it wasn't
Don't
a
say gay.
don't say gay and
Critical
God,
race theory.
what was it? Not critical race theory. I mean that is another one, but no, it was something else.
The math books.
No, didn't it? It had to do with. I think it had to
The
do with.
fact that we have a list, right? Like we're like the bath salts,
It's
the bath list. Like I mean, like we like with Florida, it's kind of like a never ending list of wait
Florida's
the
Florida, man. There's
intergilium, right? It's so many things it could be.
Florida has a special list, boy. They're just special. But yeah, I think we spoke about so much about Florida previously, but we did touch upon the things that we had just mentioned. But I just think that, as I said, everything was starting to was put in place. Even the voting, like the voting boxes and who can vote, who can vote, who's doing the like. It's been a hot mess, and I don't know what y'all Democratic Party is doing because I'm not hearing anything unless I'm just not reading enough. But I don't see anything. And what is it from your perspective? What is it that they can do to actually halt or even attempt at stopping this from transpiring? Is there anything that can be done?
I
Truthfully,
mean, certainly, yeah, certainly. One, the Dems are right now writing their fundraising letters because this is going to raise an incredible amount of money from
mm,
donors
uh-huh.
to their coffers. So that's what's happening right now. So if you're not hearing anything from the Dem side, is I mean, and then there's been public statements. I don't want to short shift that. There's been public statements from politicians about the Politico leak of the SCOTUS early draft of their forthcoming Roe versus Wade overturning decision. However, right now the focus is probably very much on fundraising, right? Like
Yeah,
this is going to energize the 2022 election in a way that probably nothing before was gonna. You will get an outpouring of people who had no intention of voting for the 2022 midterm election because we never do.
yeah,
Um, gonna vote this time because of what's going on, which is really, I mean, which is kind of behind the scenes of Chief Roberts saying, "Oh, we're gonna investigate this," because
mm,
the early release of this document has political ramifications beyond the actual ruling, right? It also fuels and invites people to make significant changes to who they're going to vote for and whether or not they're going to vote this
true,
election.
true.
It also, but let's not be fooled. This also is going to embolden the right. So maybe those
Yeah,
who had not been, having this close of a taste of what they've been fighting for 50 years, for half of a century,
hmm,
is going to make them more willing to show up to defend this opportunity to have these rollbacks. But again, while we're focused on the federal level, and that's important, the real fight is happening in the state houses. You don't get Don't Say Gay if Republicans don't control the state houses. You don't get CRT bills and book
hmm,
bannings
hmm.
if Republicans don't control state houses.
Right.
It's really, who's on these school boards, who are on these commissions for civil rights, who are on the wards and what do we call aldermans and council members. Like those low level positions and state representatives are really where policy gets made. And because we have this big romance with things like the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, and some of these big SCOTUS cases from the 60s and 70s, we've kind of been conditioned to look to the feds to fix our problems.
Hmm.
But the right has not been doing that. The right has been slowly and strategically for the last 50 years long-term investing. That's one of the reasons I called out philanthropic funders on the left. I write grants for a living. Those grants be for like 1 to 3, sometimes if you're lucky, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That is not how right-wing funders are funding. They're giving general operating support for an open agenda for 5, 10, 15, 20-year deep, long investments to
Shit.
get their agenda and their goal ultimately passed. And that's what it's going to take. It's taking the long view.
Mm-hmm.
It's not this kind of short, fast, pie in the sky, flash in the pan type of thing. And it's sad, right? I mean, they have outs. We keep winning these little battles and think we've done something. Meanwhile, they're settling in for a long war,
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and the fruits of that is finally paying off. I mean, would you think that with Kurt Vonnegut's book on book banning? I mean, like we were talking about that when I was in school, and it felt outdated in the '80s, right? When we're talking about the book banning in in Kurt Vonnegut's books, right? Like that felt old and like old fashioned. Like, why are we
Kurt
even
Vonnegut.
reading about this?
Right.
Right. And now in 2022, we're having real book bannings happen in hundreds of schools across the nation, specifically targeting books by Black people, women,
Black.
and
Yeah.
queer folks,
Right.
right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and indigenous people, right? Anything that makes white people, quote unquote, feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's kind of where we are. What can Dems do? I mean, one, we can show up to vote, right? I mean, which is part of what the kind of I told you so conversation has been about.
Yeah.
We can get our philanthropic funders to actually engage in long-term deep investments on the causes that we believe in and the defense of those causes. I used to work for Advocates for Youth, which was a reproductive justice organization, and we struggled to get our money every year because defense of a policy is not as sexy as getting the policy passed. But it
Mm.
was defense of the policy that kept Roe versus Wade, you know, off the chopping block for the last 50 years. You have to not only get the policy passed, you have to defend it. And
Right.
trust and believe the right is going to make sure that those policies are defended. And once they get their way, it's going to take 20 years easy to remove those don't say gay and CRT bills off our books. I mean,
You said
that's
20
just
years? That's what you said?
yeah. I mean, think about how long Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I mean, that took about 15 years from Don't Ask, Don't Tell, if not almost 20, before we repealed that.
Mm.
Defensive Marriage Act, that took about 20 years before we got the right to marry in 2015. The
Yeah.
right to marry for same-sex people is only 7 years old in America,
Yes.
right? So, so like, these things take an enormous amount of time and people power and resources. I mean, and I've already said, kill this filibuster business because this idea the Republicans aren't going to kill the filibuster the second they get in power is ridiculous,
Oh gosh.
right? I mean, that's the rationale, right, for the West Virginia senator and the Arizona senator, who Manchin and Samina, who are pushing against this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is
Mm-hmm.
that this filibuster has helped protect people in the past? That was the past. In the past, conservatives and liberals used to go out and eat dinner together and have drinks together in
True.
Congress and Senate. That no longer happens.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
were able to be on bipartisan, committees together. That no longer happens,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is all out war for the culture, and Republicans are very clear about what it is, and Dems need to get into it. They really do, and killing the filibuster is one of those ways to do it.
Mm.
So that's my thoughts on it. I'm a drunk nobody's political right now. So
Listen, you just open up a whole can of you got to learn this. So I'm like, okay, I have some
you
reading to
know,
do.
I mean,
But it does.
and part of my I hate it came from the fact that there were so many headlines about Hillary was right. If the people didn't vote a certain way, we told y'all about Trump. None of that
Yeah.
helps. I mean, it's
Yeah.
true. All of that is real. Those things are real. But what the give people marching orders. Right now, people are fired up.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you want to give them marching orders. That's when you want to give them a plan. That's when they want You want to answer what you just asked, right? What do I do? I'm furious. How can I help? This is when you're supposed to immediately be hitting them with the message. You can help in the following three ways. Boom, boom, boom. Because people can't take more than three things in their head at one time.
I think,
Right? The real thing might be like 5 to 7 things, but no, give them three
and
and
that's
hit
still
them
a
with that
lot.
message over and 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 from now until November.
I
You
think the
know,
one thing that I've seen was from the last one I saw was from a journalist that got to catch Klobuchar as she was coming out, and she was one visibly upset, and two, she was like went directly for the polls. She was like, these people, what they're doing, exactly what you had said not too long ago, in terms of these people, they're putting their stuff out now, this is what's come to effect, and they're going to see the repercussions of this because people are going to end up making up their minds along the way, and they're going to take it to the polls. And that's exactly how she ended it, cut and dry. That's it. And you can see on her face that she was visibly just upset, shaken, everything. She was not having it that day at all. And I mean, if you're saying that that's definitely going to change people's perspectives in terms of going to vote and making sure that the right people are in these roles that we discussed earlier, then I mean, that's going to be a huge positive in their pocket, in the Democratic Party's pocket, if
I
it's
mean,
mhm.
even if Biden, knowing it wouldn't pass, right? It'd be performative, but because of the filibuster, it wouldn't pass. Now is the time to put out a federal reproductive justice national agenda, right? Like, like what the Dems are putting out is, how do we protect children and babies after they're born? Like there's like a federal bill right now to expand first um, Head Start and expand resources for low income pregnant women
Mhm.
in the first years of a toddler's life. I mean, like, so there's a federal bill around that, like with the assumption that Roe is going to be overturned.
Okay.
But what so that's what, and there's some bipartisan noise anyway around that particular bill, because one of the things that conservatives keep getting hit with is you don't really give a fuck about these babies after they're born. You only care about fetuses,
Yeah.
right,
Right. Right.
right, like and so this gives them some it's not politically expedient because it's going to give Republicans cover around that charge, but it gives them cover, and we also can help make sure that young mothers or mothers who choose to have a child or are forced to have these children, because we still the conversation about incest and rape has completely gone out the window
Oh yeah.
in the
100%.
last week. Is like, even though we know that 1 out of every 4 women experience rape, and 1 out of 2 of every Black woman experience rape. So so we know that this is some real stuff that's going to have some real implications, but that's the conversation. We're not like, so Biden could look really strong right now coming out with him forcing a Republican vote against reproductive justice protections for women. But
Hmm.
it gives something for people to rally around. I mean, sometimes you just do something to rally around. Jesse Jackson knew he was going to lose the 1984, 1988 elections that he ran for under, but he was able to mobilize and increase the number of Black districts that had Black voters through voter registration for people who were going to vote for him. Right. So, I mean, sometimes it's not about winning. It's about what can you do to lay a groundwork
Hmm.
to help increase a voter base for your policies in the future.
True.
Um, and how do you energize and mobilize your base? Because right now your base is saying, what the fuck are you doing? And how are you going to protect us
Basically.
against this stuff that keeps happening? I
Yeah.
mean, and it's not going to fix the 6-3 SCOTUS, right? I mean, and of course, there's the conversation that can be had about adding more seats to the Supreme Court,
Yeah, but
which, the Dems don't seem to necessarily have a stomach for,
no.
but might be something we need to do in the short term. I mean, the problem with that is that, then the Dems increase it, and the next time the Republicans are in, the Republicans increase it to get their way. I mean, it's like, so
Right. I was about to say,
opening up that door.
that's a Pandora's box that you don't want to deal
it's,
with.
it's on Pandora's box. But like right now, the only people who are playing go for broke are Republicans. The
Mm.
Dems are not playing a go for broke, and what we need is a go for broke Democratic Party right now. So, I mean, they're being moderate and mature, and and I'm a moderate, so I like all of that. But not when the other side is shooting, and you come around with fisticuffs. No, they got
Listen,
guns.
you can't go right. I was about to say you can't go to a gun battle with knives. Like that don't make no sense.
Right, exactly. Like they're not playing, and they
Right.
consistently show you that they're not playing.
Hmm.
Why are you still trying to play patty cake with people who are looking to beat you in the face?
Literally slit
So,
your throat at this
I
point.
mean, without and swear the Bible told them to do it. I mean, like,
Oh,
so I don't know. I mean, again, I'm glad. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, Mexico is a Catholic country. It's a conservative country.
hmm,
But I feel very much safer here right now than I do in the States. And
yeah,
that's hilarious because black people here are not as plentiful. But I don't feel safe in the States.
yeah. I hear you.
No. So anyway, whew,
That
y'all,
was
we
a
brought it
whew, yeah.
in.
That was a
Right,
good
we were.
one.
For a minute, I literally thought we were gonna bring it in at under 100, 1 minute. I mean, hour 30 minutes, and then we got onto like the talk.
No, I knew this conversation was going to happen tonight. So when I was looking at our notes, I go, if he's not going to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. But my version might not be as detailed because you would know more. So when I saw you start writing, I was like, yes. So
I mean, a part of
I'm glad
it
that we got to
is,
talk about it.
I'm so exhausted. I mean, because these are, I mean, and I get the impulse to want to say "I told you so," even though it's not helpful. It doesn't really move the needle,
Yeah.
because these were conversations we've been having since Obama, really. I mean, even
Hmm.
before the Hillary thing, we're like, hey, the Tea Party is dangerous. They're really doing some things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
oh, those crazy people, they the crazy people. It's not just a Trump thing. This stuff has been boiling for the last 20 years.
That's true. That is
And
true.
and speaking of Florida, we have them to thank for George W. Bush, which kind of began this Republican Revolution
Mm.
Part 3, because we had the second one in the 90s.
You had all of them.
Um,
Oh,
and
too many of
the
them.
first one in the 80s with Ronald
Yeah.
Reagan. So this is the third wave of the foolishness. And I was
Mhm.
around for Reagan's 80s. That was when those are the poverty years in which I was clutching the pearls and talking about Viola, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
this wasn't cute. For those
It
of
was a
us who lived through
mess.
that crime and poverty laden years, those were not cute years for black people.
Mm, I remember New
That's how we
York in
got
the
hip hop.
80s. Boy, New York in the 80s was a scary place. It was not cute. So, yeah. Mhm.
Chicago wasn't either,
Oh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
and so, hopefully people will learn. All right, folks. That is, we started on a high and a kiki, and we ended in a in a very somber, somewhat sober mood.
But we got y'all
You
thinking
know,
now.
but hopefully we got you thinking, and hopefully
Yeah.
mobilizing. This get out the vote again. The local stuff matters way more than the federal stuff. Focus on the stuff that you can wrap your arms around right there at home. Who's on your school board? Who's
Yeah.
responsible for the elections, the election boards, like who's going to bring in some foolishness around elections. Like, all of that stuff matters. Otherwise, we're going to be watching the fall of America like we watched the fall of Rome and the fall of England.
You know what
Um,
though? But your last line that actually goes for Canada as well. We are going to the polls in June, and it's provincial, but still, it's the same thing. Know who you're voting for, know who's doing what, who's in the school boards. Everything that you just said there is exactly on point and on T for what's coming up on this side as well.
yeah, it's a scary era. I mean, I feel bad for the babies. Half my life is over. So, like,
Oh boy.
I don't, I'm gonna be an old man in a wheelchair by the time the babies figure out how to fix all of this.
Yeah.
But I just feel for them to have to go through yet another wave of this. We like to think progress is always forward motion, and it is not. It happens in
Mhm.
fits and starts.
Yeah.
So
True.
anyway, folks, we still waiting for your stories.
Y'all
We're
suck.
still waiting for your stories.
Let me
Still
just
waiting
say
for your
that.
stories.
Y'all suck.
And some of that might be, well, some of that might be because a lot of people didn't know, get to hear our last podcast because we were having some technical difficulties with the platforms that we work with, and we're
Hmm.
going to fix that for this one. But and we won't be on Spotify, folks. So that's actually one thing we probably should announce. Spotify has this weird thing around the music, and we have. I had a podcast series that ran for 5 years that's on the same RSS, and it has lots and lots of music on it, and you can't have music on Spotify podcasts, at least not anything more than like kind of your opening number. So we won't ever really be on Spotify, but we will be on Apple and Google and Podomatic and all the other places. So check us out
Hmm.
there.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Subscribe. Make sure you follow, like, let us know what you think about this episode. And AMC, you want to close us out?
Yo, guys, live long and prosper. I'm on the Trekkie vibe when I should be on a Star Wars vibe since yesterday was May 4th. But, anyways, whatever, y'all. Peace. Be well, stay safe, and we'll hear you soon.
I love that she completely forgot our outro. Yes, everything in life is story, and what are the stories
Oh
you
my
telling
God.
yourselves, and what are the stories you telling the world? Take care, people.